This is the Washington Times front page for Tuesday, June 15th, 2021. Thanks for joining us. I'm George Gerbo. America, at least according to businesses and community anchors, is back to normal after a year and a half of pandemic disruption. Tom Howe reports tuxedo rentals at Men's Wearhouse are nearing 2019 levels after hardly any event business in February, and librarians in South Carolina are practically giddy after lifting mask rules this month and seeing children come for story time. Jiffy Lube says more Americans are coming through its service bays as Americans get back on the road. The company reported a significant spike before Memorial Day weekend and an uptick earlier this year when consumers received federal stimulus checks. Big retailers such as Walmart also reported upticks of in-store traffic and sales that are tied to restaurant operations and social gatherings. The change coincides with the vaccine rollout that has reached over half of the U.S. population. More than 42% of all Americans are fully vaccinated, and average daily new cases of COVID-19 have dipped below 15,000 for the first time since the start of the pandemic in March 2020. On Capitol Hill, 3 House Republicans have introduced a resolution to censure Minnesota Congresswoman Ilhan Omar and the 3 other members of the squad over their comments last week equating the U.S. and Israel to Hamas and the Taliban. Joseph Clark and Valerie Richardson report Republicans said their rhetoric defends terrorist organizations and contributes to anti-Semitic attacks. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi and her Democratic leadership team strongly discouraged Omar's rhetoric last week, but didn't impose a penalty on her. By Sunday, Pelosi insisted that the statement wasn't a rebuke of Omar. 12 of Omar's Jewish Democratic colleagues in the House penned an open letter condemning her rhetoric last week. A censure resolution would increase the pressure on Pelosi to allow a formal punishment of Omar, whose anti-Israel stance has riled her colleagues since she joined Congress in 2019. In foreign affairs, President Biden's high-stakes summit with Russian President Vladimir Putin is expected to be dominated by friction over Russia-linked cyber attacks, election interference, and human rights abuses. National Security Team leader Guy Taylor reports a growing concern for both leaders as China's rise as a nuclear-armed global power. Biden and Putin are unlikely to see eye-to-eye during their one-day summit in Switzerland on dealing with China, let alone find a way to cooperate on containing its ability to project power. Some analysts, however, say the 2 leaders could agree in Geneva on the need for talks to update the crumbling state of Cold War-era agreements designed to stave off a nuclear war. The Biden administration has also said it's looking for a more predictable relationship with the Kremlin. A reminder that you can find all these stories at WashingtonTimes.com/front page. Don't have access to the Times yet? Visit WashingtonTimes.com/George and get 25% off your annual subscription. Staying with China, Bill Gertz talks with former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, who says he's confident in his State Department's analysis from January that links the Chinese military to the lab under consideration as a potential source of the COVID-19 pandemic. Pompeo says that every piece of evidence suggested the Wuhan Institute of Virology had the hallmarks of a place from which the virus could have leaked. Doctors at the lab contracted COVID-19-like symptoms in the fall of 2019, as reported by the Wall Street Journal. Pompeo says China should be expelled from the World Health Organization if it fails to take part in a second, more thorough and independent probe of the origins of COVID-19. China announced last month it would not take part in any further investigation and has consistently denied the virus could have originated from the lab. And finally, James Varney looks at attempts to change school curriculums in districts across the country. Parents in several states, including in Rhode Island and Massachusetts, say districts are looking to include critical race theory teaching in their instruction. Much of the pushback is coming from small groups of parents or activists who oppose the expansion of diversity, equity, and inclusion programs, officials said. They said most of the decisions have been made under rules and regulations governing public meetings and public records, and some administrators say parents have had plenty of public notice, with public school board hearings devoted to anti-racism issues over the past year. Find all today's front page stories at WashingtonTimes.com/front page or on the Washington Times app, and subscribe for free to the front page. Just search Washington Times on your favorite podcast platforms. You can also follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Wash Times for breaking news, sports, commentary, and more. For Washington Times, I'm George Gerbo.